Hey, welcome back to Female Founder World. It's your host, Jasmine Garnsworthy, and I'm recording in Brooklyn, New York, where it is wildly warm. It is 18 degrees Celsius. It should be minus 10. I'm kind of stressed about it, but we're going to push on. Today's conversation is with Keira Rumble. She is a friend of mine, but she's also an influencer and a serial entrepreneur. She's got not one, but two amazing businesses that we're talking about today. Her first company, Krumbled Foods, makes a product called Beauty Bites. They're a collagen infused functional snack. And her second business, which she launched much more recently, is called Habitual Beauty. They're a clean skincare company. And you know what? The really great benefit of chatting with someone like Keira is that, first of all, she's an absolute gem. You guys will love her, but she has the benefit of both scaling a global company and also having recently launched something new. So she has both like the context and the recent experience to give really good advice to people who are starting businesses right now, which is all of us. So let's get into the episode. Welcome to the pod, babe. It's so great to see you.
I know, so nice to see you. I wish we were in actually person though, but anyway,
I know that's not going to be happening for a while, though, is it?
no.
Kira and I have known each other for a little while. We're both Aussies and have kind of been in the media and entrepreneurship space for a while. And Kira, I just love to like get people to kick off by talking about their business and what they're building in their own words.
Sure. So I have two businesses, well, three businesses, but two product-based businesses. Crumbled Food, so Beauty Bites. We were the first in the marketplace to have a snack and a supplement, sort of, really merging this functional food space. And, we have major retailers. We've just launched into the UK. It came out on my own sort of need and desire to have this on the go snack and supplement, having collagen and vitamins and probiotics and prebiotics. So I sort of identified a gap in the marketplace. And, through R&D and, a long road, we finally launched in 2019. And then I have just recently launched Habitual Beauty, which is a wellness and beauty brand that really tries to offer a 360 approach to both inner and outer beauty.
For people who don't know the brands, maybe they are tuning in from overseas, they're in America or the UK, where a lot of our listeners are. Can you give like a bit of insight into the scale of the businesses now? I know that you've got, I think Crumbled Foods is in Priceline, right?
Yeah, so
And
Crumbled Food,
Coles.
yeah, it's in nearly 1,500 retailers
Yeah.
in Australia, and we've just launched into the UK, into Holland and Barrett. So then that's about 500 retailers there. It's definitely a bigger player. We've definitely made our mark in that FMCG space. Um, it's a well-oiled machine, very commercial product. Price point's $4, very much mass scale production. We're just about to open up our own factory and start our in-house manufacturing for that. Habitual Beauty
Whoa.
is definitely, yeah, massive. Habitual Beauty's just starting out. Both businesses are fully bootstrapped. Um, Habitual Beauty has launched into Sephora in Australia. We're looking for expansion in the UK towards the end of the year. It's very much an online e-com um, business model, but then also, having those strength retailers like Sephora.
Let's go back to kind of before 2019 when the idea for your food product first came to you. What was the story there? How did the idea come about?
So I was noticing that collagen was a massive trend overseas. And so I started buying just via iHerb my own collagen. And then I would be having my probiotics and my prebiotics and then vitamins and then making snacks. And I was working a 9 to 5 job and I just was incredibly time poor and I was spending a lot of money having all of these collagen and these supplements. So I wanted to come up with this solution to create an all-in-one on the go solution. So yeah, it was, good in theory. We had some massive roadblocks to start with. But yeah, we were definitely the first in the category, and we essentially created a category within the food space, which was a challenge in itself, pitching to retailers.
I know that the process has been, just from like you talking about it, the process of getting all of that off the ground has been pretty complicated and a lot of kind of steps involved. For folks who are new to that, they want to create a food product. What were those steps that you went through in the early days to get a recipe, protect your idea, and basically like create something that you could then go and market?
So we had to find the right food scientist, and make sure that the product was commercially viable. So that was sort of my biggest focus, was to make sure that A, it was going to be tasty, B, it was functional, and then C, it was commercializable. So, we had to take that sort of multifaceted approach to ensure that the product was actually going to be working in the marketplace. I had a protein ball product that we launched before Beauty Bites that was not commercial. It was not commercially viable, and we launched and I pulled it from the marketplace because it just was not delivering the results in a financial capacity that we needed. So we had to put all of our eggs back into one basket and go through that R&D process again, which definitely was extremely costly. Um, but yeah, definitely finding the right formulator was really crucial. There are some very advanced, incredible formulators out there, but then there are some also, some quite basic ones. So we really wanted to ensure that, taste, you can't sell a food product that's not tasty. That's just
Yeah.
it. So, that was a big focus for us to make sure that it was actually tasty and was actually going to get those repeat purchases.
Something that I really want to understand is like what the planning looks like early on. And I feel like you probably, when you started your first kind of product, that was probably a little bit more intuitive and as you go. And then I imagine that you had a more refined process when you launched Habitual Beauty. So, what do you think are those steps that need to be taken in terms of, do you need a business plan? Do you need just like a bit of a roadmap? How are you putting together your budget? Like, what's that planning process for folks who haven't done this before?
Yeah, so I guess I've got a really great example because Crumbled Foods Beauty Bites, there was no planning. It was very much
Mm.
idea, chasing our tails. I mean, perfect example of what not to do really is we created a brand within a brand. So Beauty Bites are its own brand essentially. And so we had a logo made up of Beauty Bites, but then we had Crumbled Foods as a brand owner, and we had to sort of navigate that process of trying to educate people once Beauty Bites was out in the marketplace that Crumbled Foods was the owner. So it was very much a build on effect with Crumbled Foods. We had no real business plan. Um, you know, Things were jotted down on pieces of paper. And I think that once I started, pitching to these retailers, I knew that I needed to take a step back and actually put in some proper forecasting to look at the numbers and to really take more of a business approach. Um, I mean, little things that we learnt along the way was trademarking. I thought that I needed to go to the best trademark attorney in Australia, which was extremely expensive. And so for Crumbled and Crumbled Foods, there was a lot of outlay and a lot of financial investment up front that could have been put in towards, e-com, digital ads, more branding assets and so forth. So I sort of learned, with Habitual Beauty, all of these things of what not to do in business and how to sort of streamline things. So we really created this roadmap of how to set up the business properly. So we had, you know, things that we could replicate and drive into Habitual Beauty. So yeah, definitely no business plan. And I don't think you need a business plan to really, cement yourself in the industry. I think it helps. And I think having a very fluid, loose business plan, but I've never sat down and paid for a business plan. I've written sort of, my values and my vision and my mission and how I want to get there and key retailers and do a bit of a wish list. But I've never been one to sort of write a business plan because I'm not really going for funding. It's all bootstrapped.
Is the lesson there when you mentioned around trademarking, was the takeaway that you don't think that that's an important thing to do early on, that it's better off to kind of spend that money in getting new customers, or that it can be done more cheaply?
I definitely think trademarking is a massive issue that people definitely need to do for sure.
Hmm.
you don't necessarily need to go to a trademark attorney that has a big firm. So I've got a lady, she's got a small business. It's just her and one other employee, and her rates. She's really quick. Her rates are really competitive, and she has done such a good job that I refer everyone to her that are my friends. And so I think finding the right people that fit in your business is the biggest takeaway for me. Um, Definitely get trademark. I mean, I've had so many trademark infringements on our trademarks, which we've had to fight. And if I hadn't had them trademarked, then it would have been a completely different story. So yeah, definitely have trademarks, but I just don't think that you need to go to a massive firm if you're starting out and bootstrapping. I think you can find the
Mm.
right people that fit within your business. If you've got an allocation of a budget, that would definitely warrant a firm, but I don't think you need it.
What kind of stuff are you trademarking? Is it like the product name, the business name? Can you trademark your formula or your recipe? What kind of stuff are you protecting?
More names and business names and products names. With recipes, it's very, very hard to patent that because then you've got to disclose it. So for us, I mean, food's very, very, if you're skilled enough, you will be able to reverse engineer to a degree. Um, I mean, not your normal confectionery person wouldn't be able to do it, but I think from a very skilled point of view, it's relatively easy. No one really has replicated our product, which is great to the capacity of Beauty Bites, but they've definitely tried.
Yeah, I've seen a few copycats out there.
Yeah.
How do you handle stuff like that when you see like you've invented a category, you've been the one that's innovated, and then you see kind of people trying to jump in and build something based on what you created. Like how do you respond to that?
I I really struggle seeing people blatantly copying products and marketing.
Mm,
So, I mean, you and I talk about this all the time is people with deep
yeah.
marketing pockets literally copywriting, like copying your copy word for word and
Yeah.
copying your marketing and copying your slogans. And it's just really hard and really um, hard not to let it get to you personally when it's been me in the business until this year. Really, I've been the only employee for so long, and it's really hard. But I mean, you've got to take it as a form of flattery. I mean, one of our major retailers has literally put a knockoff product right next to ours and half the price.
Oh,
And, you
stabs me in
can't
the heart.
really, yeah. And so I had a bit of a cheeky conversation being like, oh, I see what you've done here. How are the sales? And we have seen a bit of a slump in our sales, which has been really hard for us to sort of come to. But, it's just all about looking at the long-term solution and how do we stay ahead of the game? How do we stay more innovative? How do we support, and pivot, which has been our biggest thing. But yeah, it's really hard to see people
Mm.
copy. Um, but then it's also that form of flattery that you need to try and teach yourself.
So I want to kind of go back a little bit to you mentioned before, like the roadmap that you follow to kind of launch Habitual Beauty and what you'd learned. And I'm wondering if you can share a couple of those steps around the really tactical things that you did in terms of planning out that business.
Yeah, so for me, I think having the right NDA in place is incredibly important. I'm actually in Supreme Court at the moment fighting an IP breach. And if I hadn't set up the right NDA and the right confidentiality agreements, I would not actually have a leg to stand on. So
That's
I definitely,
stressful.
it's really stressful, and it's such a common thing to go through as a business owner is to have legal issues. And I think stepping into this business ownership space, it's, if you're listening and that's something that you are really, really interested in doing, by all means go for it. But you need to be prepared that you could be having a legal battle. I mean, for instance, my trademark infringement, a massive billion-dollar company over in the UK was using Beauty Bites as a name and just willingly going ahead and doing it. And so we had to send multiple cease and desist. And then finally, after I had spent all of this money on legal letters, they had gone, oh, yep, no, we'll stop doing that in a few months' time once we run out of stock. So it's just, you've got to be prepared to pick your battles. So I definitely think having the right people on your team, not necessarily full-time employees when you're starting out. I mean, it took me 2.5 years to actually employ my first employee. Um, so yeah, I think having that sort of that legal component, so trademarking, and then your branding component, making sure that you've got a really strong brand and brand tone of voice, and you stick with that branding for that sort of launch. We normally operate as a bit of a 50-50 in terms of our e-com being 50% of revenue and then retail being 50% of revenue. And that works for us because we've got products that work well in both spaces. So I guess having that sort of foundational, are you going to be purely e-com? Are you going to be doing a retail product? Do you have the right margins to be into a retail product? Having that sort of conversation with yourself and the team um, is really important. So sort of figuring out what business model works for you, and if the margins are right, that's incredibly important. And then, setting up your Shopify, making sure that you've got the right email marketing, which is something that is a massive monetary driver for us. I mean, we send out one EDM and we make, 70% of our online sales within, for that month through EDM.
Who are you using as your email platform?
We have just transitioned over to Klaviyo.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, yeah. They're all expensive.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So another conversation that I had on the podcast today, we were having this exact same thing. We are like, why is email marketing so expensive?
It's insane. I guess, we've got a really, really strong database for Crumbled Foods. That was something that, we're incredibly lucky with a great following and a great audience and, repeat people that are on subscription models, and, our EDMs are it's our money maker. But my gosh, it is so expensive. So
Mm.
expensive.
It is like, as you grow, you really want to make sure that you have that optimized so that it's kind of, worthwhile.
For sure. And that's something that I have no clue about. That's what I've employed people to do because that's not my forte. And I guess that's sort of one of my biggest things in business, and with the protein ball business, something that I didn't do and I neglected was looking at the financials. I knew it
Mm.
wasn't profitable. I knew that there's something
Been
wasn't
there.
right, and I just ignored it. And I was like,
Yeah.
whatever, la 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 la. I don't want to know about
Yeah.
it. And so detrimental to the business. So now I log into my Zero, I log into my Shopify, look at the stock, look at the revenue. What can we be doing differently? In the monthly reporting, we make sure that, what's not working, what is working. And I think that it's so important to be across that. So important.
Do you know what I think? Like, this is, I'm gonna speak from the eye, but what I think happened with me, like definitely with the buff in the early days, like I think you kind of can internalize this conversation that's happening in like venture-backed companies around growth at all costs, and it doesn't matter if you're not profitable yet and blah blah blah. But if you're a small business, and a small business I think is any business under 30 million in revenue or something, so like that's a pretty good business if you've got
It's a
only a
great
handful of
business.
employees. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not bad. If you're that kind of business and you are not profitable early on and you're bootstrapping, like you need to have the unit economics, you need to have them right. Otherwise, the business will not sustain itself and you'll lose money as you grow. And I just think that we can really get carried away with, oh, but like people love, like I'm getting great feedback about the product and people really like the brand and blah, blah, blah. But if the foundations aren't set up there, you don't have a business.
for sure. For sure,
Mm.
100%. And I mean, even just on packaging alone, we were looking at compostable packaging when we first launched Beauty Bites, and that was well before compostable
Mm-hmm.
packaging was really a thing. And I just had to make a decision, go, okay, it's people are not going to not buy this product at that point in time. It's still recyclable. People are not going
Yep.
to buy this product because it's in a recyclable packaging versus a compostable packaging. And I had to make that, yes, it didn't sit well with me. I always want to strive to be doing better in the sustainability piece. But for me, I'm still, making my mark in sustainability. It wasn't plastic, it was still recyclable. But I had to look at it going, is this going to be making me money in the long run? Or is this something I can work towards? And just something simple as that and even as simple as printing collateral. I needed to do some
Mm-hmm.
mail outs for Sephora in store, and I mean, Habitual's still very much in its infancy stage, and I don't have like, I'm not flush with cash. It's all going straight back into the business. And I had to make this decision. Do I just print it on my printer, get a thick paper, and then hand it out that way rather than going to a printer, and spending a few extra $100? And it's just
Yeah.
all of these things that some people just wouldn't think about. But because I'm literally looking at every cent and penny this time around, it's so crucial.
I think that's really good for people to hear because I think, they can see the growth that you're having. You're having these incredible stockists. You have two successful businesses, but the reason why you have two successful businesses is because you're doing stuff like this.
Yeah. And hopefully there comes a point in time when, I can, go to a nice printer and get things printed. But, I do for some things. But you've really got to just look at it and go, is this going to add value to the business? And if it doesn't, and if it won't, and it's not essential, maybe look at sort of, writing a list of, the added value, or, is it something that you don't need to do at that time?
Mm. I this is a little bit of a deviation, but I was speaking with someone at an event recently and they're the CEO of a really, really big beauty company in the US. They venture backed. It's a big D2C company. And they launched a recycling program where you can send your packaging back in to be recycled, based on the idea that they're getting this feedback that people want, that sustainability is really important. Gen Z, particularly, are really mission focused, blah, blah, blah. She said that they had one product return for this recycling program. One. Like they must be selling millions of units. So just in terms of what you're prioritizing as you're building a business, like people can say that they are super mission aligned. I don't know if everyone is actually spending their money that way.
That makes my eyes more just thinking about that. The amount of money that would have gone through
Yeah.
doing the branding, the messaging, getting it all set
Mm-hmm.
up. Oh my
Updating all
word.
of their packaging, like the
All of
content they
it.
would have put out. Yeah, I know. I know. Oh, nightmare. Anyway, all that aside, I want to talk about marketing for a little bit and,
Yeah.
what you are doing when you're launching new products to kind of support a launch.
So we are still finding what works for Habitual. We did a few things wrong when we launched, which was, always a learning experience. So we sort of pivoted in the past 2 months and sort of rewriting what works for us, doing more key call outs on ingredients and so forth. We were very much leading with, being a clean brand, when in reality, people want results and they want to see the results that
Mm-hmm.
you're getting. So we're really trying to change that. But what works with Crumbled is testimonials and video. And so for us,
Mm.
we do a lot of video ads. We have started doing a lot of UCG sort of content. We have, Facebook ads are always a great tool of, income for us, and influencers are key for Crumbled. I mean, we have people on 6-month contracts that are just completely, every month they do content. The first 7 months of Crumbled, we didn't pay any influencers. And so that really shows you that if you've got a good product that people believe in, you can make things work. Subscription boxes we found were really, really pivotal in the success for the first sort of year, because it was a mass sampling of people that are really interested and highly engaged in that space. So, yeah, we've got a few pillars that we like to touch on, in terms of what works.
Can you talk me through a little bit about what it looks like when you are engaging an influencer for like a 6-month contract? How does that work?
So we have just brought in a girl full time to manage our influencers. So basically, I'll never go and commit to a 6-month contract with an influencer. And it's interesting because I'm an influencer in my own right in terms of, Crumble. And so I get to see the best of both worlds, and I also get to see the worst of the bunch. And, some people convert and other people don't. And you need to sort of go, okay, I spent 2 grand on her. we got one sale, we won't be booking her again. And
Yeah.
it's a hard sort of pill to swallow sometimes when you're spending this money on a person, but you just need to go, okay, maybe we saw an uplift in our coal sales that week. Okay, let's have a look at that. And if there is no trackable ROI, then we'll just move on. But for us, we really find this sweet spot with the sort of the micro to the mid tier. And so we will always trial out our stories first, and then we'll look to book them in for a story and a post, once, and then we'll book them for 2 story sets. And then if we're still seeing this continual ROI, we will then move them into a more ongoing contract. So then, people are really building this brand trust. And, what they say, it takes 10 touch points to actually generate and
Mm-hmm.
convert a sale. So we really want to build that, familiarity. We do things, if we've got an influencer working for us for a 3 to 4 month, basis after, repeating, we'll get them to put a poll on. Have you tried these beauty bites yet? And if we notice that, 90% of those people have already tried it, then, we need to change the messaging and change the tone and change the call outs or the discount that we're offering. And then if it's, 30% have tried it, then how do we then hook those people in that haven't tried it? What's our offering then? So it's really trying to create this longevity of a buyer and a consumer through the right messaging.
I think the key takeaway from what you just said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not just, you're not just sending out product and then sending out a check for someone. Like, you are like hand holding through what the messaging is, what it looks like, what the strategy is dependent on how they're performing, and that you can't just, yeah, you can't just DM a bunch of influencers and send them gifting and hope that it'll pan out.
For sure. And we always say, we've got a set of deliverables if we're going to send out product.
Yeah.
We always say, if there's an exchange of money, we will not be transferring the money until we get the insights.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's really important that any bit of sampling and any bit of financial exchange, I'm able to measure that.
Something I actually just wanted to put in a quick recommendation here as well. There's a great site called Creators Legal, and it's just like a super affordable way to access templates for contracts for engaging influencers and different kind of
Cool.
creators that people should look for. I actually should get one of their templates for a podcast guest release form, which I have not done. So on my
Oh my
list.
gosh, that sounds great because we're literally at the point where we're now like refining the contracts because
Mm-hmm.
there's just, you know, I really want a contract with anyone that I'm doing a financial exchange with.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And e-signature is so easy these days.
The last thing that we ask everyone who comes on the show is just to share a recommendation. So if there's a book that you've loved, someone who's kind of helped you, someone that you follow, that you think other founders should kind of engage with if they want to get to where you are.
Oh gosh, I am like the wrong person to ask this question. I think there's so many incredible podcasts out there. And so for me, I will look for more of that entrepreneurial style just to learn about what they do in their
Yeah.
lives. So, I mean, Gemma Watt's The Glow Journal, I love listening to that because it's
Mm,
very much beauty entrepreneurs that have made their way in the industry. And I love just learning about their story. And the one thing that you learn a lot about is successful companies have a why. And that's sort
yes.
of my biggest thing. And you really want to buy into this brand and this company, and why did they start, and does it align with you? And I think that that really is the core foundation to success.
I agree. And there's a book behind that as well, Start With Why. And I'm not going to remember the author. That would be way too helpful, but I'll put it in the show notes, and it's all around exactly what you just said.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I live and breathe work so much that I'm never one to really read and absorb books. So I think I need to listen to things audio on an audio
Mm,
base. Driving, when I used to drive to the city outside of COVID, that was all I'd be listening to, is just, I
yeah.
love learning about people's journeys and people's stories.
Are you listening to the Wiggles now when you drive?
I'm listening to this thing called The Happy Song by Imogen Heap, and it is like baby crack. They love it. It's insane. So my 7-month-old Bubba is very much loving it, but it's just yeah, he doesn't like my appreciation for true crime either, which is really disappointing.
Shocker. Maybe he'll grow into it. Oh, well,
Yeah,
Keira, thank you so much for your time. It was great to chat with you.
thank you. Speak to you soon.